These are the men who served in the 84th Infantry Division during the final months of World War II. First committed to action on the Siegfried Line in November 1944, they were quickly caught up in the Battle of the Bulge and the series of conclusive engagements that followed. This is their story. By the beginning of November 1944, the defeat of Germany appeared imminent. To the east, Russian armies had pushed their way through Poland and the Balkans. To the south, Anglo-American forces were moving relentlessly up the Italian peninsula. To the west, Allied armies, having advanced through France and the Low Countries, now gathered along the borders of Western Germany.
Altogether, we were on the Siegfried Line for about 3 weeks, and my memories of that are pretty much blurred. It was mostly mud and cabbages, and every now and then we did have a slight move forward, but for the most part we were just in the foxholes, usually filled with water.
These are the men who served in the 84th Infantry Division, a division that distinguished itself in a series of critical engagements during World War II. Thus, this story could be the story of any infantry division where the uncommon virtues of courage, endurance, and self-sacrifice became the commonplace.
Good old M1 rifle, semi-automatic, breech-loaded. Seems a lot heavier than it did 20 years ago. My name is John Shaw. I was with the 84th Infantry Division as a buck private during World War II. I was one of these ASTP boys. 3,000 of us shipped down to the 84th Division in April before we went overseas in 1944. And we were trained hard and sent overseas in September, and were in England for a while, and then we caught the Red Ball Express. And then before we knew it, we were right on the edge of the line, ready to go into combat. And we were all of us kind of wondering what things were going to be like. We could see the shells going off, we could hear them, and we were all sort of nervous, but I don't think anyone was really fully conscious and aware of what was going to happen.
The men of the 84th Division had managed to penetrate the enemy lines a few hundred yards east of the Dutch frontier. But the Siegfried Line barred the way to further advance. This fortified zone of tank traps, gun emplacements, and pillboxes had become a shield behind which weary German troops now assembled. General Siegfried Westphal, Chief of Staff to Field Marshal von Rundstedt, had this to say of the situation.
It was essential for the German High Command in the West to gain time in order to re-equip the West fortifications, called Siegfried Line, for defense purposes. We had to make every effort, therefore, to see to it that our troops could maintain this position as long as possible.
The 84th Division's immediate mission, part of a general offensive, was to crack the Siegfried Line at the town of Geilenkirchen, and then establish beachheads on the nearby Roer River. Beyond lay the main objective, the Rhine.
The intelligence which we received was of the very best. The individuals, clear down to the squad level, were indoctrinated, instructed exactly what their jobs were to be. There is no question but that we had very much confidence that we'd be able to carry out this mission. I know also that the regiments, the battalions, the companies, and the platoons and squads had that same feeling of confidence.
The 84th Division would be supported by the British on the left and the American 2nd Armored and 102nd Infantry on the right. Facing them were several Volksgrenadier divisions and a number of crack panzer units. At precisely 5 minutes to 7 on the morning of November 18th, an artillery barrage signaled that the attack had commenced.
Geilenkirchen was about 3 miles away from where we were, and so happened that our regiment was leading the attack, and happened to be in the first platoon of the first company, and I happened to be in the first squad of the first platoon, and so happened that I was the first scout. So I was first. And we came through a little woods and out onto a sports plot. So we shot across this clearing and into the outskirts of the town. And there was a trench there, and we walked up the trench, all of us feeling pretty happy at this point and pretty proud of ourselves for having gotten that far. And it seemed to me the whole company was strung out into one big line. And all of a sudden, a German in a window 3 blocks away opened up on our column in this trench with a machine gun. And of course, we all hit the dirt. And we just waited there for somebody to do something. Finally, a British tank lumbered up the street off to our side and fired 2 shells right into that window. And that was the end of that.
I'm Richard K. Hawkins. I was a first lieutenant with A Company 334th Infantry of the 84th Infantry Division. It was necessary for complete cooperation between various branches of the Army. And since it was necessary for the infantrymen to attack on foot, seize the ground and hold it, it was also necessary for artillery to neutralize these positions before the infantrymen jumped off. It was a wonderful show of cooperation between these different branches.
We got through Geilenkirchen and we started on the road that we thought was taking us right to Berlin. We felt great and we were pretty excited about being in the war. And after we'd gone about 500 yards up the road, the 88th started coming in. Like fools, we ran into a little woods, and all of us tried our best to dig into the ground. We used our hands that just tried to claw the dirt, trying to dig in. Meantime, these shells were coming into the trees and bursting all around us, and our friends were being hit, and we were screaming for medics. This lasted, it seemed, for about half an hour. I suppose it lasted about 5 minutes. And I turned to the man on my right and put a tourniquet on his leg.
In the murderous frontal attack that followed, several discoveries were made. All sectors of the German Western Front had strict orders to relinquish as little German territory as possible. Every inch of ground was to be defended tenaciously.
I tried to comfort the man, prop his head up until the medic could reach him. And all this time, and I shall never forget this man was trying to apologize for me for being hit and sorry, almost crying because he would not get to carry on with the battalion and continue the fight.
By the 21st of November, the Siegfried line had been dented. The objectives in and around Geilenkirchen had been taken. The 84th now headed for the Roer River, a few miles distant. General Bowling picked the village of Lennox as the ideal location for the planned river crossing. The cost to Germany of Hitler's miscalculations would be staggering. More than 250,000 men dead, wounded or captured. At least 1,400 tanks and guns destroyed or abandoned. Slowly and painfully, the remnants of the once proud Wehrmacht retreated behind their shattered western defenses. It was the beginning of the end. By the 3rd of February, the 84th Division had again moved back to their positions on the Siegfried line. Their watery objectives lay before them: the Roer, the Rhine, and the Elbe.